In this lesson, we're going to talk more about glyphs and the glyphs panel. If you'd like to follow along, go under your file menu to open. And in the working files folder, go into chapter number 6 and select Finding Hidden Glyphs and just click Open. Let me select this first line. And I'm going to open the glyphs panel. And you can see a lot of the choices that are in this typeface I could see right in the panel. But if I start scrolling, you're going to see that there's an awful lot of glyphs in this typeface. Well, that's because it's an open type typeface. And open type typefaces can have over 65,000 glyphs. Now, of course, most open type typefaces have way less. It may be 300 or 400 glyphs. But still, trying to find the correct glyph with so many glyphs available can be a daunting task. So how do you easily find them? Well, I could make the panel bigger just by simply going along the left-hand side and dragging outward. And you can see more and more glyphs inside of the panel. But even with that, when I start scrolling up, you'll see that it's endless. And not only are there the glyphs that I'm actually seeing, any glyph that has an arrow to its lower right, if I click and hold, you're going to see alternate glyphs to that glyph. So very hard to find what you want. Let me scroll back up and make the panel smaller so it's not covering half my layout. The question is, with so many glyphs, how do you find the right one to insert? Well, you can limit the number of glyphs that are shown to a particular category. By default, it's showing the entire font. But you can see there's a whole pop-up menu here of other choices. Why don't we just talk about some of those choices? I'm going to go into this first line and select the space between 14 and 2. And I'm going to finish this equation. But instead of showing the entire font, I'm just going to show math symbols. And that makes it a lot easier to find the division sign. To insert it, all I need is an insertion point or to have something selected and just double click on the division sign. While we're in math symbols, why don't I get an insert point after the word infinity and the question mark? That too is in math symbols. And all I have to do to insert it is double click. But what if I wanted to finish this line? Put in my I'm looking for the cent sign. And that's not a math symbol. It's actually, let me scroll back up. It's currency. So if I select currency, I should be able to find my cent sign. But you can see there are a lot of glyphs that have to do with cents. Maybe I want the small one that's raised up a little bit. Really kind of cool. But what about symbols? I can go to my show pop-up, and instead of math symbols, I can choose symbols. And you'll see there are some symbols in here that we've seen before in other sections. But maybe I want my copyright symbol, or my register mark, or this diamond shape, or even a caret. So all of my symbols are listed right here when I choose Show Symbols. So you can see this is a lot easier, limiting what is shown to a certain category. Now, what about numbers? Let me get an insert point after any kind of number and go to Show and scroll back up and see if I can find numbers. And yes, there it is. And you can see not only do I have all of my numbers here, Some of them are different sizes or different styles. So let me double click on one of those, and you can see that's more of a Roman numeral kind of one. Let me go to this one, and you can see that's different. This one is smaller and raised up. This one is on the baseline, yet smaller. So you have a lot of choices, including a lot of fractions. Let me double click on each one of these, and you can see there are a lot of fractions when you're using OpenType. And this makes it easier to find exactly what you're looking for. Let me go to the next paragraph where I'm looking for a euro to put in front of this number. Well, that would be currency, and that's the next one down. And I seem to have quite a few euros, not only the two that I see right here out in the open, but if I click down on the little arrow to the lower right of either one of them, there are other variations of that one that's out in the open. So let me just choose the one that is out in the open, and you can see it inserted that. But what about punctuation? Let me go to my show pop-up again and find punctuation. Let me scroll back up. There's punctuation. And maybe what I want is a Spanish upside down question mark. In Spanish, when you have a question, it begins with a question mark that happens to be upside down. And I have two different upside down question marks. Let me select the one that's lower and go slightly below the baseline. And there is an upside down question mark. But what if I wanted to make this into a bullet? Well, that's also punctuation. I could double click on my bullet and possibly add a space. So this makes it a lot easier to find exactly the glyph that you would want. And it's not only the typeface that you're working in. You can click down on the type family pop-up and choose any typeface that's on your computer or any style within that typeface. Also, if you're having a problem seeing the glyphs, you can make them bigger by hitting the zoom in button, or you can zoom out to make them smaller. I'm sure you've noticed that as I've been applying these various glyphs, they end up in a section called Recently Used. So that makes it easy to find any glyphs that I've used recently, but be aware these glyphs are in a particular typeface. So if you want a glyph in a different typeface, you would have to change your typeface down here and select the glyph in the appropriate section of the glyphs panel below. Recently Used is from a particular typeface. In the next lesson, we're going to start discussing paragraph formatting.